Start video.
What happened?
I don't know. I got this weird message that the meeting host had already started another meeting, but I'm the meeting host. I'm a little worried that Becky or somebody, the town clerk, may be trying to use this account that we've reserved for this time period.
Yeah.
Capital planning, perhaps.
Yeah.
Blame the capital planners.
Yeah, there's not supposed to be any conflicts. Grace is supposed to coordinate, who's doing what. So hopefully it was just a blip. And when I kicked them back out, when I logged back in, they realized that we're on.
Either that or we'll toggle between them zooming and us zooming.
Yeah, if it happens again, I'll jump on email and let you guys know what's going on. I mean, I have a personal Zoom account that I can use. I just don't have recording ability.
Yeah, it'll be an illegal meeting because of open meeting laws or something, but that's okay. It's an emergency.
I have an account I can record from if you need to.
Okay. Oh, you're right though. Even if we're recording, we're still violating open meeting though.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
what are they going to do? Arrest us?
Oh, because you changed the address, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you should just have Grace look into it. Let her figure it out.
So, all right. Well, we're all here. It seems stable enough. So let's just go for it. All right. So first order of business is approving the meeting minutes from March 17th. Today, Steve sent around just a couple of edits to what Jim had sent with our previous changes. Those look good to me. Not throwing Eversource under the bus for that repair on January Hills, which we could never prove. So that was a good change. I make a motion to accept the meetings as submitted.
Second.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right, let's move to the HUT report. Graham, anything to report?
I haven't looked at the new webcam in a week, but I'm assuming not much is happening in the hut, and we've had no alarms, right? Anyone? So yeah, the hut seems doing fine, and the monthly report on help tickets was swollen somewhat by a whole bunch of, they got to like 70 something individual calls, and we know it could have been much higher than that from the HDCP, the dynamic DHCP problems that seem to always happen on the 14th of the month. Obviously, probably a red herring, but anyhow, they say they know how to fix it now, right? And they're going to do that soon. Is that true, Gail?
Correct. The configuration is going to take place next week during an overnight. They don't expect any customers to be affected. We all should get an email from Crocker support just giving us a heads up that it's happening. But again, it's happening overnight and they don't expect any service issues. And then the final fix is going to, we'll say part 2 of that fix is going to happen on May 5th or 6th, one of those dates, May 6th.
So other than that, their help tickets were pretty kind of typical. A few people have canceled their telephones, their Crocker phones. I noticed there might be a bit of a trend there, and I know one neighbor who realized that she wants her Verizon telephone back because there was a slight chance, or because if the hut goes down, as we know it could, she might have Verizon service. And I said, yep, you've got a chance of that.
Did you tell her it could work?
Yeah, fine. Right. That's all. I didn't want to tell her it was a bad idea, but they don't have fantastic telephone service. But,
And if the power is out and you don't have adequate backup to your ONT, then you do lose your telephone service, which with
Right.
Verizon doesn't happen. There is that consideration.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I got my deep discharge marine battery, and I got to use it for like 20 minutes when the power went out last week, whatever that was. So that was a real test of the system. I won't last longer than an hour tonight. I have this neck jaw issue that I've already bored Steve with, and possibly Jim. But my physical therapist said, keep your spine stretched and don't spend more than an hour at a time on a computer. So just I'll remember to run away after an hour. Nothing else to report that I'm aware of. There was one interesting thing, and then that's about backup. I went to a Calix webinar on offered by Calix, and after asking a question at that webinar, Jim Crowley sent me an email, said he saw me at the webinar, and said, hi, how's things going? And I got back to him and asked him and mentioned, well, he'd heard me ask a question about backup and Calix's ability to do anything in a generic sort of get us to our ISP backup thing. And Jim reminded me, or Jim said, well, you haven't actually installed the MBI to the Leverett hut yet, because we're still going through the town hall. He knows that because he controls the Leverett hut. And it occurred to me, oh yeah, here we're thinking, oh, it goes to Leverett now. It could go to Leverett now, or it could go to Wendell. We can still think about it. But the funny thing is, well, it's actually a Crocker circuit, and therefore, I'm thinking, oh yeah, well they're both actually Crocker circuits. So it's Crocker who would have to initiate dropping the MBI circuit at some new location, and so that's one of the reasons why we never thought to do it. But anyhow, we might or might not do it now.
I'm getting quotes on that from Matt. So at our next meeting, you can expect a list of options and prices to move our redundant connection out of our existing hut into a different hut. I don't have all of the information yet, but so far, pretty sure Tim's the operations manager is pretty sure that Leverett hut is probably going to be the best option, not New Salem or Wendell or somewhere else, just due to cost. But anyway, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, so nothing else.
Great.
Graham, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the problem that we're having with the Juniper servers, the DHCP servers, are we the only ones having trouble with that? Is there, is Juniper saying, well, yeah, we've seen that problem elsewhere kind of thing? Or are we the one and only, the lonely?
I don't think you'd get a straight answer from Juniper, but you could Google around on the subject. You'll find user groups who talk about such things. And if there's no one talking about such things, then you can figure it's pretty minimal. But we did have that conversation that some of Juniper's patches and updates and stuff were a little flakier than others. So that does suggest that they've got issues. So that, no.
Yeah, to diagnose the issue when it first happened, Crocker did work with the Juniper support folks, and they identified the problem as a update to the firmware that was needed. Mm-hmm. So that's what's happening before May 6th is the firmware. So I assume that the Juniper folks have seen this before if they were able to diagnose it with the Crocker folks and tell them what's happening, and also say, y'all need to update your firmware.
Yeah. A bit surprising, isn't it?
It seems like the problem, there were two different things going on. One was the need for this firmware update, which would apply to all or a lot of the Juniper switches that were all in the same series, say. But there was also a problem with how they were configured, such that the failover wasn't happening properly. And that, I'm assuming, was the way Crocker installed them. So I'm thinking, yeah, other people's Juniper switches may be a bit flaky, but if they have a properly configured failover switch, it doesn't impact service the way our service got impacted, if I summarize that correctly.
Correct.
I
It
think
was
you're right.
both configuration and firmware.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that of which is kind of like, well, Crocker should have known this, or something that was an understandable mistake. I don't know.
But Juniper should be really good at doing it because they depend on that as one of their big marketing things, to be able to do failover stuff. So it should be just sort of off the shelf sort of coordination programming.
Yep.
Are they involved, Juniper, are they involved in this repair, or is it just something that we will be doing in conjunction with Crocker on our own?
It's something that they advised Crocker on of how to do,
Okay.
and then Crocker is going to execute solo.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I missed is April 27th is the first round?
April 27th is,
It should be the configuration.
I know, I think that's either when the notification is going out for the configuration happening the following week, or it's the configuration. I don't know. The two dates though are the 27th and May 6th.
Okay. So late on, so early on the 27th, I'm just trying to get this, into the notes. Early on the 27th is when is when the operation will take place.
I believe so. That the 27th is the configuration, and then the May 6th is the firmware.
Okay.
If I'm wrong about that, it should be corrected with the emails we're going to get from Crocker saying when it's going to happen. All right. We have an agreement forthcoming about the billing delays that have been happening. So it's going to be a 75-day limit that all parties are amenable to that one. So any bills that we get 75 days after the date of service, we will not pay. So this is going to hopefully solve our billing issues that we've been having with them. And I'll add that to our ongoing documentation for operations once I get it. It's not officially part of the contract, but we have it in writing, we have it in email, and I'll again put it in our ongoing documentation.
Okay.
Gail,
you're kind of breaking up. Are you aware of that?
No.
Your video is freezing up, and your audio is you're getting that kind of poing sound to it periodically. So.
Let me close some applications and see if that helps. We know it can't be the internet.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Of course not.
Sounds fine now. So.
All right, is that better? Yeah. Let me know if it keeps going, and I'll turn off my camera. Sometimes that helps. I've been waiting for Becky to get the tree trim list back to us. So this was the list of problem areas that we identified over the last year and was given to Tim Hunting to mitigate. I've asked for it a couple of times. I'm tempted just to give up on it and looking for a volunteer to drive around to the areas and just see if things look good there and if trees were indeed trimmed. It's only like 7 or 8 areas in town. Does anybody feel like that would be a fun thing to do? Ayers, you up for it?
Love to.
Great, thank you. I'll send you over email the list. It's very clear. It's like it just says the road name and the approximate house numbers. Just drive by and think, are those limbs going to fall on our wires or not? Or does it look like somebody's done some work on them?
Okay, will do.
I think the tree warden is responsible for some of that stuff too. Just so you know, it's not just Tim.
Yes, the tree warden worked with Tim on our list. So he's aware too.
Okay.
Who was the tree warden?
I forget his name.
His last
Don-
name is
Wakaluk?
Don Wakaluk.
Wakaluk, that's right.
Yeah.
Presumably a tree warden can spot problems a lot better than one of us can.
Yeah, he one of his jobs is like going around town and then giving mitigation lists to the utility companies. He works
Right.
with the utility companies. So um after we get our list back from Ayers of what he finds, I think it might be a good idea for me to contact him again and see if he knows of any other problem areas in town. He also has the power to get companies like National Grid to pay for it.
Mhm.
I
Once
think he also has a small budget himself, but that
Mhm.
also not big, but a small budget. So
Mhm.
both those things, all those things.
Yeah, Eric, you look so much like a radio DJ right now.
Sorry. Well, Rush Limbaugh, whatever his name, died. So
Yeah.
down here in Cooleyville.
I think Graham will vouch that I do look at trees more than the average Shutesbury resident does.
Oh, good.
That's probably true. We all do. We're all driving around looking up at wires. My wife says, "Keep your eyes on the road."
Yeah, as does mine. It makes us a little dangerous,
Right.
doesn't it?
I know.
All right, other maintenance and service stuff. So the whole SMS messaging system and the email system is now in place. So during our next outage, if everything goes well, we all should be getting text messages and emails with details about it.
Good.
So there's a little issue that we're having that I want to talk through with you about ONTs. I think it's just a coincidence, but there's been 3 calls in the last 5 days for service trouble tickets with no light at the ONT, and the homeowner was sent outside to like, is the fiber still connected to the house? Do you see any visible problems with it? They said no. So Crocker actually sent out their own technicians, not Tri-Wire, to go and diagnose this because they couldn't know for sure that it was a problem with a bum ONT, or was it actually a problem with a fiber going to the home. So 2 of those have still not been diagnosed. One of them was a mouse chew. So it had nothing to do with the ONT. It was just a mouse problem.
Yeah.
I would say typical for early spring, perhaps. So this spurred a whole discussion about what do we do when there's a problem reported with service at a home, and they go through all the normal troubleshooting steps and there's no light at the ONT. So Crocker knows from their end, like there's that something is wrong. It's happening from the curb to the home. We don't know if it's a bad ONT. We don't know if something in the drop is bad, or there's a mouse chew on the jumper or something like that. So they've been doing this ad hoc thing of sometimes sending out their own people, but they haven't been charging us for this because we have no contract to pay Crocker technicians to do this. So Tim said, we really can't keep doing this. So we had this long conversation about well, do we set up a separate lockbox in the center of town so people can drive up and get out like a fresh ONT, bring it home and test it to diagnose it? You know, should we store them at the town hall? Should MLP members, you know, have some of these to run diagnostics? So I thought through all the options, and I think what I want to do is just make this part of Tri-Wire dispatches. For them to come out, it's only going to be between $150 and $200 for them to come out, get one of the ONTs that's stored in our lockbox, bring it to the customer's home, plug it in. Yes, if it's an ONT problem, they might be there for only 10 minutes. You know, plug in this new ONT, said that was your problem, and leave. But then if it's not that, then they can also, they'll be there with a bucket truck. They can fix the other issue if it's something having to do with the drop. Anyway, my thinking on this is that having the customers somehow get an ONT from us in some way and fiddle with it, have to return it if, you know, to us, if it doesn't work. How do we know what happens in transit? Did they drop it? Did their kid play with it? I just think it's just not worth it. If we can, anyone disagree on that one?
I agree.
Yeah, no, you definitely don't want the homeowner trying to figure it out, because
Yeah.
And,
So what
and
about-
having these devices floating around that we don't know their status?
what about the idea that Leverett did of having a local electrician on tap who does that for hopefully less than what Tri-Wire charges?
I think that would be great. It would require another vendor contract.
Yeah.
They need to be on call 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So my thought is that we already have the whole mechanism in place for this. And even if it's local, by the time someone gets mobilized and everything, it's only really going to save like maybe 90 minutes of, trying to get somebody there.
But- Gail, I'm puzzled why we can't pay Crocker to do this. For instance, when the Calix card went bad there because of the ground leg that was on top of it, knocked a portion of the network out. Matt Crocker came out, worked on it, and we were billed for maintenance charge to Crocker. We paid them. So why we wouldn't be able to pay Crocker for going out to a home the way they've done?
They don't have this. They don't have the 24-hour staff available to do this.
Drop repair, do we actually want it to be 24 hours? I mean, I would think that we wouldn't even want to send Tri-Wire at triple time on Sunday night. Or should it not be business hours to fix it in the next business day?
We do patches any time for customer issues. That was one of our policies that we instituted last year because of the criticalness of online activities. So if a customer calls and they can diagnose, Crocker can diagnose that the issue requires a dispatch, it'll be sent out immediately. Unless if they call at midnight and the customer is like, no, don't worry, just send in the morning, they won't do it. But if the customer says, no, you have to come now, they will come. We can revisit that policy if you want. But last year we decided as kind of a overall customer service policy to make sure that people had critical internet, we dispatch whenever they need.
Gail, I'm
And
perfectly.
yeah, sorry. And it's not, just to clarify 1 second, Jim, it's not triple time. It's just whether it's a Sunday night at 3 or Sunday at 3 o'clock or a Tuesday at midnight, it doesn't matter. It's just the off hour rate. There's not like double or triple time that ever gets charged. It's just off hours or on hours.
Yeah.
What was that, Jim?
Yeah, I'd be perfectly willing to go take at least a preliminary look at these things, because sometimes it's easy to solve and sometimes not. Handing out ONTs is definitely out of the question, because even if you had a provision whereby someone could pick one up, it that's not, you just can't swap ONTs because it involves, getting the numbers off the ONT and giving them to Crocker and having Crocker redo it in one thing or another. So that solution I don't think would work at all, but I'd be perfectly willing to go out at odd hours to, to take a look at things. Because usually the solutions are simple sometimes.
Yeah, my only concern about that, Jim, is one, I'm not confident that the Crocker technicians would be great if we gave them multiple processes, kind of like if it's between, 8 a.m. and 10 p.m., then call Jim. If he doesn't answer, then wait a half an hour, then call you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That it's a hard process to relay to multiple techs to do correctly. And then also, if there is a problem with the line itself, you can diagnose that maybe, but you can't fix it. Whereas if we send the tri-wire out immediately, it's a kind of like a one-shot stop. We get the customer back online in the quickest way possible, because if there is a trouble with the line, the people who can fix it are there.
Mhm.
Right? So we don't have to wait another 2 hours for tri-wire to drive out from Tewksbury, come here and do what they need to do. The risk, here's what I see it as. We're going to pay $200 sometimes for tri-wire to drive out and plug in an ONT and say, oh, it was a bum ONT. That's the only risk. Because if it's not a bum ONT, they're going to have to be called anyway to fix the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Gail, the other risk is the one that happened at least twice, and that is where they do fix stuff at nighttime and they don't do a very good job because they can't see it's a drop thing, and they don't actually, they kind of improvise, and then they have to go back the next day or a few days later if they even remember to go back and fix it properly. So there's that aspect too of fixing something in the nighttime, especially if it's outside. So I kind of like, I hear you that if someone really urgently needs their stuff fixed and it's like drop dead urgent, and then they don't mind it being done at nighttime. But I think generally it's not going to be cost effective, and it's maybe not even a good idea. So.
I hear you. I think that's a separate issue though. If they're doing crappy repairs or, having to return for a second time when they've been dispatched, I see that as
it's hard at nighttime and in bad weather. If it's still wet in a storm and dark, it's just hard to tell. You got to examine it in daytime sometimes to see exactly what was the cause. That's why I think sometimes.
I mean, these fiber cables are small and dark, and being damaged to a fiber cable under adverse conditions.
Yeah.
This is their job. Come on.
Well, except, yeah.
No one else is doing it. Verizon, Comcast, no one else is doing that well.
Because I watched Tri-Wire doing a splice at night, and the guy is using a headlamp. It's not like what National Grid does with the big spotlights they set up to make the whole area. I think that's valid, Craig.
But this is a separate question from what Gail asked.
Yeah.
right.
We don't need to change the policy, but that's something to keep in mind.
Can I just ask a related question?
Scenario written, right? As far as it's only critical people that need to. I mean, there's a script that says if you really need this at this time, right?
Right. So the clause where we ask the customer, we can send somebody, if it's before 2 p.m., doesn't matter, someone's going to go out. But if it's after 2 p.m., they get the question asked, how critical is this? Do you want us to send somebody out now, or can you wait till morning? So we try to delay it until the next day. So this suspected ONT issue would fall into that clause.
Okay.
Didn't we have a complaint from somebody about what did they send that truck out for at midnight and wake me up? I don't.
You can't please everyone.
Yeah.
Can I ask a related question? What happens with that mouse person? Do they pay for that or do we pay for that? I mean, we don't want to send somebody at 3 o'clock in the morning to fix a mouse bite, do we?
No, we do.
And pay for it.
We pay for
We
it.
own it, everything up to the house. with
Yeah.
The mouse.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool too.
Yeah, we're tracking all of this. So, you know, after a couple years, if we see that there's been 2 or 3 calls to the same house for rodents, we can have some leverage there of like, hey, yeah, you need to call an exterminator in here. We're not paying
Right.
for another chew
The
jumper.
rodent charge.
Yeah,
Right.
an extra rodent charge, but so far
Right.
that is not a problem.
Right. I'll rent my cat. In fact, I'll give him my cat.
All right. So, does anyone object if we try this out with Trywire being the dispatcher?
I think that's fine.
I also think that if it turns out to be a bad policy, we end up spending too much money on drops, we're going to know. You know, we can track this carefully. So I'd like to give it a whirl, and we can revisit in 3 months if it's costing too much. See if there's a different solution.
Fine.
I will say, just as a note, by the way, I had to get a new modem a while back, and so I called Crocker because my internet went down. And the technician was very good and very patient with me. Well, we sort of decided whether it was the ONT or the modem or the blah, blah, blah. And we decided it was the modem, which obviously I just got another modem. But anyway, they were very good at diagnosing it just on the phone what the problem was.
Modem?
Case.
Oh,
Good.
If they can see the ONT, then they
Right.
Yeah.
then they're happy. If they can't see the ONT, it could be a mouse. in the
Right.
back,
Right.
Mouse
right.
outside.
True.
Anything else about maintenance and service we need to discuss for now? All right. Steve, financial report, take it away.
Okay. Well, our current balance is 108,334. That's what I have in my spreadsheet. The $105,000 debt payment on the 10-year note was scheduled for April 4th. I don't have an update yet from the accountant, but I assume that Ryan made that payment and that it'll be charged against our account. One interesting thing that happened, I had a email from Gail Weiss, the accountant, recently let me know that she was crediting interest to our account for $178 for the first quarter of the fiscal year and $171 for the second quarter of the fiscal year. I was curious about how we were getting interest, and I contacted Ryan to ask if our accounts were in a separate bank account for the MLP Enterprise Fund. And he said no. And then Gail Weiss explained that she takes the balance in our account each month. The end of each month, she looks at what the balance is and multiplies that by the interest rate that the town is receiving on its bank account, checking account, which interestingly, the town still is getting some interest on its account. It's difficult to come by these days. And she credits that once she tallies it up month by month, and once a quarter credits it to our account. So, you know, it's a little bit, but was glad to see that come in. The direct deposit of the Crocker MLP fee that Crocker collects and then sends to us, which I had talked about this a little bit ago, we're looking into. That is in progress now. That the form, Ryan has filled out the forms, and Crocker today made one of those $1 test deposits into our account. So you know, when they see that the two accounts can talk to each other, go ahead. So the the fee that's due at the end of this month, hopefully will be done electronically, which will speed things up and eliminate the risk of the checks getting lost in the mail. So good progress there. Let me just see. I noticed on my last subscriber bill from Crocker that it had gone down by $3 or so from the previous month. And I was curious about that, since generally every month it's the same amount, or might be a penny different or something. And so I looked at it and saw that the, I don't know if any of you folks look at your bills as carefully as I look at mine, but I noticed that the reduction was in the sales tax line of the taxes and fees area. So I contacted Kathy Whitney, the finance person at Crocker that I deal with fairly regularly on the other financial things. And she explained that Crocker uses a outside consultant to advise them on tax issues. And this consultant, when Crocker started the business with Shutesbury, that the MLP fee, the $52 a month portion of the customer bill that comes back to the MLP, was subject to the Massachusetts state sales tax. And Crocker questioned this and didn't think it sounded right, but that's what they were told. But Kathy said they pushed back further and really asked that consultant to revisit that earlier this year. And they finally, the consultant said, no, you're right, that's not subject to the state sales tax. So $52 times 6.25% is $3.25. So townwide, everybody's bill should have gone down by $3.25 a month. So little bit of progress there.
I wondered about that, and that's interesting to hear the backstory. Do we get a do they get a refund, and then we get a refund on the sales tax they shouldn't have
I
paid?
doubt that, because I mean, Crocker billed us for sales tax in good faith, and I assume turned it over to the state in good faith. And so to get that retroactive refund would require Crocker going back to the state to try and get that tax refunded, which I would think.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Let
good luck on
sleeping
that.
dogs lie.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But at least going forward, that
Yeah, we'd have to walk to Boston like Shay did, Captain Shay. It
Need the
work out
money.
well then.
yes.
And if I recall, that didn't turn out too well.
Yeah, no, it didn't work. They discourage it.
He got a road named after him.
That is true. He got a highway.
They said they might call a new highway the Shutesbury Network Highway. Or something.
Yeah. One other thing, there was Jim sent out that email about Elon Musk and his new satellite network. Gail responded that, she wasn't really concerned because, as we pay off the debt, we'll be able to reduce our fees. So I did a quick back of the envelope, or I guess back of the spreadsheet calculation here. I just figured with no debt to pay, with all other expenses staying the same, we would be able to reduce our MLP fee to $27 a month from its current $52 a month.
Ooh.
And so with the, and if our ISP fee stayed the same, these are a bunch of suppositions here, but
Right.
Park, you can use that. We'd be able to offer the internet service for $50 a month. And when you think of the quality of the service we're offering, I think that's still, Musk and everybody and Bezos, they're gonna have a tough time beating that. So
And not just on price, but the performance thing. I looked at a critique. Maybe it was one of the links that Kent or Craig sent, but I read the critique of the satellite, and it was based on they were getting money from the federal government for serving underserved areas, and it looked like their bandwidth, they had a bandwidth limitation on the satellites that made them very marginal on meeting what they were supposed to meet. So there's no way they'll come anywhere near what we're providing at gigabit and no data cap.
Okay, and I don't know if this applies here, but back a ways, I couldn't get Verizon some special amplifier here, or maybe it was AT&T, using my HughesNet because there's a delay in satellite. So it would be fine for internet services, but no good for cell.
These are low Earth, so I think they'll have
Low
less
Earth,
latency.
Yeah. I am a satellite guy, and fiber is going to always beat satellite.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, yeah.
And this comes
There's
from, I spent 40 years of my life with satellites, so.
There,
Yeah,
it's coming straight from the guy.
and there's still rain and snow, and there's
Well, they said it wouldn't work. That was the thing. I couldn't,
Yeah.
and so that all those things up there. I don't know. Maybe it's a thing of the past. Maybe they've gotten rid of the way to handle that delay.
Well, yeah, I mean, these satellites are lower, so the latency would be less, but, you know, and 5 or 6 millisecond latency.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd be able to come close to that.
It won't be closer than the hut at the town hall. I always think of the analogy of just if you wanted to put our hut into low orbit, you know, that it's not gonna, it's not good economics, you know.
Need a long string.
Right. Yeah.
I was saying it was Elon Musk. This was Jeff Bezos' satellite that I should have referenced.
so the place that I see that it could be a problem is if they offer package deals. You can get a cell phone and internet and all this for a reduced price. They may pick people off, but I'm not super worried. This is down the road.
I mean, these guys are so rich, they can do whatever they want. You know, price-wise. That's the-
That is true.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can offer an introductory price. Well, we can't, but any can offer a introductory price to try and bring people in, just like the offers I get for electric service all the time.
Speaking of offers, I don't know if other people got it, but I got a postcard this week from Hughes.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Somebody there at HughesNet is not aware of the fact that like they're wasting thousands of dollars sending out these postcards to people.
Oh yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
High-speed internet now available in Shutesbury through
Yeah, right.
HughesNet.
Exactly. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've been getting them.
So I think our real solution should be we should start advertising and promoting 8K and 15K TVs on our websites and get people to buy them.
Yeah.
All right, one more financial thing I have is, Jim, you wanted to maybe just touch on the 513 American Recovery Act amount, the 513,000. I assume through the Finance Committee, you know about that. And is there any of that that could be used for broadband?
That is a tough question to answer. I'm still, Becky thinks that we will be getting the whole 513,000, but according to what I've read, we will only be getting 183,000 and the rest of it goes to FERCog. But so that's a little bit unknown at this time. And as to whether we could get some money maybe to pay off the debt, well, of course we can't do that because we're locked into it for 10 years. I'm not quite sure how we could cash in, so to speak, on whatever monies are going to be coming to cities and towns. I wouldn't get and I also don't know, since our construction is completed, that's another problem. If it wasn't completed, then things might look a little bit more promising. So this isn't a very clear report on all of that, but it's the way I see it as of right now.
Okay, if there's any other developments and a possibility of us getting things, certainly let us know. I think that there's probably causes that are more desperate than us for this money, but if it's one of these like use it or lose it things, we could definitely put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we have, I think, until 2024 to use up or use whatever money. Well, the first load of money came from the CARES Act, and then the second load of money from the Recovery Act. We have until 2024 to do. The town has till 2024 to do something about it, and to cash in on it. So right now, most of it seems to be headed, or a good chunk of it seems to be headed towards the elementary school and their problems there with the heating and the HVAC system, but there'll still be a lot left over from what I gather. So no one seems to really know how the money can be used. That's the impression I'm getting. And I have been reading up on it, but it's, you know, it still is, we're still in new territory here, so to speak.
All right. Okay, moving on to random stuff in the manager report. So we're still getting a trickle of new installations coming in. And there's 4 sites. This was from several weeks ago, but there's 4 site surveys scheduled for customers who want a new installation. And we have 5 routers left. So we are almost out of the entire stock, like the extra stock of routers. These routers are still in production. So the EA7300, its cost is about $93, $94. They're still in, you know, like I said, they're still in stock. So the question we need to answer is, do we keep doing this? Do we keep providing routers with our installations? Tim at Crocker is biased towards keeping things as they are, because when you do this and you do an installation, everything's there and the technician can leave with everything working instead of saying, well, we're done, but where's your router? And the customer going, what's a router? What do I need? What? Or going to Target and buying a $30 router and then complaining about poor performance. It's also advantageous for the support teams. They have seen a benefit to their technicians, helping customers because our equipment is standardized.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Scale, the new customers are still paying 200.
new customers are paying the full installation cost except for $300, which we subsidize.
Yeah. So if we throw in the router, that seems fine to me.
Yeah, just it's really, do we want to keep providing these for new installations? At some point we are going to have to switch, move away from the EA, they're going to stop making them. They're going to start getting hard to get, or they're just going to become outdated at some point. We're not there yet. So one answer to this question could just be, we're going to kick the can down the road. Do it. We discussed this a little bit last year and we said, okay, we'll do it till the end of 2020. And now here we are in spring and now we're like, well, we could do it till the end of 2021.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, and they're available, you say?
Yeah. So
we could order 5 more, 10 more, something like that.
There is a new, I think it's the EA7500, and I've installed a few of those in Leverett, and it's a better router for sure. So I think we could, if necessary, we could move to that one. I'm not totally certain about the model number, but these are readily available in Walmart and most everywhere else, and it's actually as good, if not better, than the ones we're using now.
Right. I'm a little reluctant to change the model midstream until we make a solid policy decision to say, okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna, like, from this point forward, we're all gonna upgrade to the 7,500.
Yeah.
You might
Um,
want to ask the Crocker technicians to look at this next model up. It might be a very minor change, and therefore
Yeah.
it might be easy for them to still support it because it, you know, has all the same command sets and the
Right.
same.
It looks identical. In fact, if you didn't turn it over and look at the numbers on it, you wouldn't even realize that there was a difference.
What's the number on that one, Jim?
I think it's an EA 7500. I've installed 2 of them, but you know, it was a while ago, and I've forgotten exactly which one it was, but I can find out. But
I think our MLP should buy one, and then we can pass it around and play with it.
you know,
Well, before that, I would just have Crocker say, here's the manual, look at it and tell us if you think it
Yeah.
would be easy for you to support.
So
Okay.
here's the problem. EA 7500
or
is
whatever.
double the price.
Oh, well, wow.
Wait, so which is the one that we currently have?
The EA 7300, which is under
Ah.
$100. This one is 200 or more.
Wow.
Yes, they look exactly the same, but they're priced very different.
They're 180
I'm-
from Walmart. I know that much.
I'm seeing
whatever.
$100 at Amazon for this. Actually, I don't know which one this is. Never mind.
Yeah, it's
It's
seems like-
unfortunate. About a year ago, I bought 2 of these for like $35. They were renewed, but I'm using them as access points because I want to have all the same thing for access point.
Mhm.
Anyway,
It seems, Gail, it would make sense to buy 5, 10 more of them kicking it down the road. We're 100% with these at this point. I don't really think you need to make a decision to change or anything else like that. And they're still being supported, right? So.
yeah. All right, tell you what, we already know we have at least 4 installations coming down so far this spring. So I'm going to order 10 of these. So that
sounds
should
fine.
get us through the end of the year. Be prepared
this-
to
yeah,
have the
this-
same discussion next spring.
The 73, you're ordering 10 more of the 7300s?
Yeah. Yeah.
that's-
We're priced out of the 7500s for now.
that sounds fine.
Sounds good, yeah.
Yeah, is this gonna be billed through Crocker or?
Yeah. Don't worry about it. It'll be a materials Crocker charge, Steve. So
Okay.
that's what we'll see on the invoice.
Okay.
All right, next order of business. This is another, hey, we kick this down the road, is the $250 reconnection fee.
Nice.
So let me give you some stats on this to inform the decision. So we've only had one person that complained about the $250 fee when it was invoked. It was a tenant at a rental property. The tenant contacted the landlord who ended up paying the fee for the tenant. So kind of like one little, unhappiness about that. There's only 8 people who have had to pay this $250 reactivation fee since 2019. And in other words, not many people are getting this penalty. It seems like a lot of people are avoiding it, and we wanted this to happen with the seasonal shutoff. So remember, we
Right.
had that special rate of $45 a month for people and plus a $5 admin fee on Shutesbury. So people can kind of keep their account in pausing for $50 a month. And there have been 80 customers who have used the seasonal shutoff since fall 2019. So the
Some
hard
could be
thing,
repeats.
what's that?
Some of those 80s could be repeats from,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
yeah, okay.
It sounds like it's working perfectly.
That's what I thought. That's
Yeah.
what I thought. Yeah, I think that we are, pushing people to pay the MLPV fee in the meantime. So my thought is we just keep things the way they are. And again, we're not getting a lot of customer pushback on this. It's, I haven't gotten any complaints in the last, at least, I don't know, year about this. And only 8 people have been penalized with it. So they're understanding like, oh, I need to pay the seasonal rate to avoid this.
You know, if Crocker's customer support, business customer support are scripted to tell if somebody calls up and says, I want to discontinue, I want to close out my account, is scripted to prompt them with the fact that we have this vacation seasonal temporary disconnect fee.
Yes.
Option.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's what the complaints were like a year ago, of people like, I didn't know this was going to happen. So now, as part of anybody who calls to shut it off, gets told, if you're doing this and you leave it off for more than 3 months and you turn it back on, you're going to be get this reconnection fee.
Okay. Sounds like it's running well.
All right.
Very good.
So there are just a few, excuse me, there are just a few people, or quite a few people have taken to the $50 a month solution to this problem, seasonal people.
Correct. So 80
Okay.
customers have used the seasonal shutoff option since fall 2019, but only 8 people, so 10% of that, have had to pay the $250 reconnection fee for a
Only
lapse.
80
And-
versus 8. Okay.
Yeah.
And currently, we don't have that many people right now on that seasonal disconnect. It's under 10. I get that every month, and it's a small number that are using it right now.
I think the security cameras and everything that like around the lake, a lot of people that are seasonal. I keep the internet here in Florida. I'm keeping the internet now just because it's so easy to monitor everything. So
Yeah.
Yeah. It's worth the $75.
Yep.
All right. Graham, do you have the stamina for one more issue that I'd like your opinion on?
Sure.
Okay, I'll try to make it quick. So one of these bureaucratic things that is the bane of my existence is prevailing wage reports. I bugged Trywire to get them for 9 months. We've finally gotten a process so that they're being put in a shared drive every month, proving out that indeed Trywire is paying the Massachusetts prevailing wage rates to all of their linemen and anyone else who, works for Shutesbury. All good. So we also have Certex as one of our vendors that is the only thing that they do is the installations. So they're not doing any repairs. They're only doing installations for new homes. The reason we use them is because they are more available. They're better at it, and just more kind of responsive than Trywire, and they charge less. One of the reasons they charge less is because they don't follow prevailing wage rules. So discussing this with them, they said, well, it's kind of a gray area because the contract that the homeowner signs to do this work is with, like, it's between Certex and the homeowner. We don't, sign anything. But then also you have the issue of like, well, if that's true, then we're paying a $300 subsidy to do the work at the person's property. So I would love some advice on this of how to proceed. Do we force the issue with Certex to follow prevailing wages? And I don't know how much it's going to jack up the price of these poor homeowners who are already paying for the majority of these installations, sometimes running $500, $700, $1,000.
I would think this is something to run by.
Go ahead, Steve.
I think maybe this is something we should run by Donna McNichol.
She will probably say we have to absolutely insist on state wage rates because that's what towns are supposed to insist on.
Yeah.
And I would be.
I think that's right.
The only thing might be is if we're subsidizing for $300, the total of materials that are involved with that, if it's just the router, the ONT, the fiber itself, if that totals $300, then there might be a difference there. Because that, I mean, that's what might be paying for, not for the labor.
A good point. In fact, the drop must cost always with a router and the drop cables and the materials we provide. That must actually be more than $300. So therefore, yeah, we could say that was materials. But back to the
I
broader.
think you still go to the attorney, but I think it's an important point that we're paying for that in material. So it might be, I mean, we're subsidizing the material effectively. The labor, they'll contract themselves.
Yeah, and is that true that the homeowner is contracting Certex and then paying Certex, or does that go through us?
The customer is definitely contracting with Certex. Well, is that true? Nope, they pay Crocker.
All right. Well, yeah, okay. Crocker doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the town's not involved, then yeah, I think that
I'd ask Donna.
they're not doing anything for us.
No, I'd still ask Donna, but I'd just make the point that we have more than $300 worth of material associated with it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, although I mean, it's weird because the homeowner's paying for this, right? But we still own everything up until the ONT. So.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a problem.
Right.
Yeah. That's something that we end up owning didn't pay state wage rates. That would be that's problematic. And it's not a huge amount more. Certex might just say we don't want to do it because the issue for an employer is that if they start paying, it's messy administrative.
It's very hard because you got 2 pay grades.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So they might not want to do it, and so that's
But Certex must have a lot of experience doing state wage rate jobs because they're doing, a lot of the other broadband work throughout the state. So.
Yeah, they must be doing it properly there, or they would be having people complaining about it because that's where it shows up. It's because someone realizes that they're being underpaid and they press it.
Did Dave?
Oh, you're breaking up, Eric. Can you repeat that?
Do they have anything to do with Whip City Fiber? With those
Certex?
installations?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, they lost that contract and it went to Triwire. So Certex is no longer working with Whip City.
It's interesting because Triwire started the business in doing drops for satellite stuff. So drops was always their independent contractors doing drops. That was where they started, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for talking this through. I'm gonna talk to Donna then. I see our 2 options are either A, we force Certex to follow prevailing wages and give us those reports. It's going to increase the cost. Can't do anything about that. Or we maybe have them stop doing it and put that back onto Triwire. It's probably going to be a bit more hassle. Triwire's not been great about this. So, but there's what, 6 to 8 of these a year. So I think we can improve the process and live with it. Ayers?
Just out of interest, you have one more option. We have one more option, and that would be Collins has an ITC state service contract, which ITC 66 or something. We can use them, and they definitely pay state wage rates, and they do good drops. So we have that as an option as well.
Thank you. I'll add them to the list.
Right. Yep.
Ayers?
I will go now unless there's
Okay. Bye, Ayers. Or bye, Graham.
lovely to see you all.
What happens if, let's see, Certex is doing business directly with the customer, and they do the install, and something goes wrong, but we own part of what they put in? What happens there?
Well, Stix has insurance, so if they, if their truck, like, I don't know, runs over like knocks over a fence post or something, then they'll cover it. For things that we can identify that was any type of bad installation, if we can identify it and pin it on Certex, then they'll come and mitigate it. If something else happens, like they install it and then 2 days later a tree falls on the drop and takes it out, it's up to us to fix it.
Okay.
So remember, we own everything up until the ONT, including the ONT. So anything that goes wrong is on us, unless it's a very obvious customer issue, like, they hire a contractor who is using a backhoe and, breaks the fiber line.
Gail, Certex did the whole installation job in Shutesbury. Were they not paying prevailing wage on that? Do we know?
They would have had to. It was part of their contract.
So they're familiar with doing this.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's not that they're not familiar with it. It's that they're to make it worth their while for what they're charging, that they're not paying that.
So yeah, I mean, if they have to pay their employees more, they're going to have to charge more.
Yeah.
The fact that we own the material, Gail, again, still may not be, if we still are providing more than $300 worth of material, I think it's still important because it may still mitigate the labor. We're getting no, I mean, the homeowner is using it or leasing it or doing something with it at that point from us through the fees, but it's still, we're providing that material. I think it's still worth mentioning to the lawyer.
Yeah. Here's something, Kent, that's a little weird though, is that the materials costs are invisible. And what I mean by that is when Certex comes out to do an installation, they just pick up a router and an ONT from Crocker. And the only thing that's on the customer's invoice, or I should say on their quote, the estimate that the customer gets before the work is done is only really labor. And we're paying $300 of that labor. Like, there's not another line item on that